You have been eating peanuts your whole life, and you have probably never once asked which kind. You just grabbed the jar, made the sandwich, and moved on. But there are four main commercial peanut types grown in the United States, and they are genuinely different products. Different flavor, different oil content, different texture, different use case. The one in your peanut butter is almost certainly not the one in your ballpark snack bag. The one in your Thai peanut sauce is probably neither of those. And one of them is so dominant that it quietly replaced the others across an entire continent, and most people never noticed. Let's go through all of them.
The Virginia peanut. The Virginia peanut is the largest peanut in commercial production. When you see a peanut in the shell at a baseball game, at a bar, or in a tin of fancy mixed nuts, that is almost always a Virginia peanut. The size is the whole point. Virginia peanuts are bred and selected specifically for the in-shell market because the visual presentation matters. You are paying for the experience of cracking something open, and a big peanut delivers that in a way a small one simply does not. Virginia peanuts are grown primarily in the southeastern United States, with the highest concentration in the Virginia and North Carolina border region, which is where the name comes from. The soil there, a specific sandy loam, produces the conditions that let the pods develop to full size without the shells cracking before harvest. The flavor profile is different from what you are probably used to. Virginia peanuts have a cleaner, nuttier, slightly more complex taste than the variety that dominates peanut butter. Roasted Virginia peanuts have a depth that the smaller types do not quite match. Specialty roasters who sell gourmet tins are almost exclusively working with Virginias because the flavor justifies the price premium. They are also more expensive to produce. The larger pods mean more growing time, more careful harvesting, and more careful handling because the shells crack more easily during mechanical picking. All of that adds up to a peanut that costs more at every step of the supply chain. The in-shell market is basically the only place you find them at retail. Virtually no commercial peanut butter is made from Virginia peanuts. The economics do not work. You do not use a premium in-shell peanut for something where you are grinding it into paste and mixing in sugar and palm oil. That job goes to a completely different variety. The Werner peanut is the reason American peanut butter exists at the scale it does. Roughly 80% of all peanuts grown in the United States are runners. If you have eaten peanut butter in America in the last 40 years, you have eaten runner peanuts. The entire commercial peanut butter industry is essentially built on this one variety. Runner peanuts are medium-sized, fairly uniform in shape, and they have a high oil content that makes them ideal for processing. When you are making peanut butter at industrial scale, consistency matters enormously. Uniform-sized peanuts roast evenly. They grind evenly. They produce a consistent flavor batch after batch. The runner was specifically developed and refined through the 20th century to hit those processing requirements. The shift to runners was dramatic and fast. Before the 1970s, the southeastern United States grew a much broader mix of peanut varieties. Then a new runner variety, called the floor runner, was released in 1969 by the University of Florida, and it had significantly higher yields than anything else on the market. Farmers switched. Then processors standardized around the new supply. Within about a decade, runners went from one variety among several to the overwhelming dominant force in American peanut production. Georgia grows more runner peanuts than any other state. The entire Georgia economy around peanuts, the processing plants, the storage facilities, the agricultural infrastructure is built around this one variety. When you see a jar labeled Georgia peanut butter, it is runners. The Virginia peanut. The Virginia peanut is the biggest peanut in commercial production. Not slightly bigger, noticeably, obviously bigger. When you crack open a peanut shell at a baseball game, at a bar, at a holiday tin of mixed nuts, that large, satisfying peanut you pull out is almost always a Virginia. The size is the entire business model. Virginia peanuts exist for the in-shell market because the visual experience of cracking something open and finding a full, substantial peanut inside is the product. You were not just buying the peanut, you were buying the ritual of opening it. They grow primarily along the Virginia and North Carolina border, which is where the name comes from, in a specific sandy loam soil that lets the pods develop fully without the shells fracturing before harvest. Specialty roasters who sell $15 tins at airport gift shops are almost always working with Virginias because the flavor can actually carry a premium price tag. Here is where it gets interesting, though. Virginia peanuts almost never go into peanut butter. Not because they can't, because it would be economically insane. You do not take a premium in-shell peanut that buyers will pay extra for just to look at and then grind it into paste with sugar and palm oil. That job goes to a different variety entirely, one that was specifically engineered to be cheap, consistent, and yield more per acre than anything that came before it. The Valencia peanut. Valencia peanuts do not grow in the Southeast. They do not thrive in Georgia or North Carolina or any of the states that runner peanuts come from. They grow almost exclusively in New Mexico, at higher altitude, in dry desert conditions, in soil that the Southeast simply does not have. They also look different the moment you open the pod. Virginia and runner peanuts typically have 2 kernels per shell. Valencia pods usually have 3, sometimes 4. Small, round kernels with a bright red skin that is noticeably thinner and more papery than other varieties. When you shell a Valencia and eat it raw, the first thing you notice is that it is sweet, not savory, not earthy, actually sweet, in a way that makes you briefly wonder if you were eating the right thing. Here is the interesting part. People who seek out natural peanut butter specifically, who complain that commercial peanut butter tastes too processed, who insist on the separated jar that requires stirring, they are, in many cases, expressing a preference for Valencia characteristics over runner characteristics without knowing either variety exists. The Spanish peanut. The Spanish peanut is the smallest variety and the most flavor-forward thing on this list. Small kernels, round shape, reddish-brown skin, and an oil content higher than any other commercial peanut type. That high oil content is the whole story with Spanish peanuts. It makes them economically valuable for pressing into cooking oil. It makes them hold their flavor aggressively through high-heat roasting in a way that runner peanuts do not. Spanish peanuts were a significant part of the American peanut market before the 1970s. They had a real share of the peanut oil market, real acreage across the southeastern United States, and a legitimate commercial identity. Today, Spanish peanuts grow primarily in Texas and Oklahoma, dry climate states that suit them better than the humid Southeast anyway. The candy industry kept buying them because there is no substitute for what they do. Spanish peanut oil has a high smoke point, which makes it useful for frying at temperatures where other